So it sounds like Hasidim do that, but in the Bava Chabad Ramak, they wait a full 6 hours, and most people do wait a full 6 hours. Okay, now we're up to page test, halacha test. Maybe some more from here. Okay, so now, what about if you have a situation where there's a case of need? Of a woman who's pregnant and she needs the calcium and she needs the protein. So waiting 6 hours between meals is difficult for her. She has to nourish herself and the baby, etc. What about a young child? It's difficult to wait. So we're gonna touch on that in halacha test. There are times when we're lenient to wait 1 hour only. Derech Moshe, for example, Misha Chola Katsas. Someone is not feeling well, they're feeling unwell. Doesn't mean that their life is in danger, God forbid. It just means they're not feeling well. And they have to have dairy foods. Or a nursing woman, if she has to have dairy foods or whatever properties they give her for the help of her and the baby, etc. Those people in that category are permitted to wait only 1 hour, and of course to make birchas hamazon, to make the after bracha, because you have to have what's known as siluk sudi. You have to actually close up one meal before you start the next meal of the opposite kind. Yikanchu v'yadichu piyam, they should clean their mouth and rinse their mouth. Cleaning refers to with food or dental floss, and rinsing refers to with liquid, carved liquid. They should also floss their teeth if possible, or they should eat something like an apple that's going to clean their teeth effectively. Mutarim, popcorn and peanut butter will not qualify because they're going to stick in your teeth. Mutarim lishtes cholov, and then you can have dairy afterwards. What about a child? And now we're going to get into how halacha views educational as they graduate into adulthood or into being fully considered to be fully ready to follow the custom. So until 9, some say a child is not a gil chinuch, not fully ready to train until 9. Some say 6, 7. It really depends on the age of the child and the maturity of the child. What about a child who needs to have the milk or has a very difficult time abstaining from the milk? For them, it's enough to wait an hour in kinuach v'adacha. I'll take the question in a moment after we're done. A child under the age of 3, so it does not have to wait any time after eating meat. You don't feed them together. You cannot feed milk and meat to a child together. However, the waiting time by a child is not required. If the child really needs it, you can even give them dairy within the hour if it's a young child under the age of 3. Some say once the child already reaches the age of 3, they're old enough to start. It's called mechanchin l'shoyos. We educate them on a per hour basis. At age 3, they wait 1 hour. Age 4, maybe 2 hours. 5, 3 hours. 6 hours. 4 hours, etc. Until gradually teaching them to wait until they can actually graduate and be ready to wait the full requisite time. Every year you add a little bit. Hopefully by the time they reach age 6, they should already wait the full 6 hours if they're mature enough and if they're able to. But if a child's throwing a terrible tantrum and they have a hard time waiting, you could be makel with a child, not making them wait the full 6 hours up till their age of 9. Unless, God forbid, there's a serious medical issue. But under ordinary circumstances, even if a child is having a very difficult time, there is a little room to move, of maneuverability there. What happens if somebody is flashing? Now they had their steak dinner at 1 o'clock. They finished eating at 2 p.m. That means they're not going to be milkfits until 8 p.m. At 6 o'clock, 4 hours later, they forgot. They made a bracha on milkfits. They saw ice cream. They made a shahakol. What do we do? Yesh Amrim, some say, Already an hour passed from the time they had the meat. They should taste a tiny bit of the dairy in order that they should not come to violate and utter a blessing in vain. That's assuming there's no other water in exchange. It's a hard drink. That's the bracha can fall onto that. Okay. That's that. Any questions on what I said so far? Now halacha yud gets into the reason why we wait 6 hours. Yes.
How much should we go to? And then at 5, whatever they eat castle, whatever, and then whatever they still have the ice cream.
They would have a little bit of the ice, not the whole ice cream. If there's nothing else to drink, that's 5 around. Yes.
That well, about the ice cream. Is the children?
No, it's a halacha for everybody. In order that we shouldn't come to say a blessing in vain. But that's if we have nothing else to make a bracha on at the time, at that moment.
Like, let's say you let people and start to do yeah. And then like if it was in the hour.
Then the hour would not be lenient.
3 hours?
The only reason we're lenient after an hour is because there's opinions that say after an hour you don't have to wait any longer. We're being lenient to say we're relying on those opinions, even though ordinarily we would not rely on them under ordinary circumstances. Now, the next halacha is going to get into the reason why we wait 6 hours. There are differences of opinion as to why there is a prohibition to have dairy food after meat. Yesh mefarshim, there are those that explain because the meat gives off a fattiness. And the taste of the meat remains in one's mouth until a complete 6 hours have lapsed. If someone's going to drink milk within the 6 hours, from the time when they had eaten the meat, and the taste of the meat and the milk will mix together. Those are different. There's another reason. The reason why we have to wait 6 hours. The pieces of meat inside the teeth after eating. So if you're going to drink milk after eating meat, the milk and the meat are going to mix, which is of course a prohibition. After 6 hours have lapsed. You're allowed to have milk. According to the first reason, the taste of the aftertaste of meat has already lapsed, it's already subsided, it's already moved away, it's already gone. According to the second reason, we don't have to be concerned it's a piece of meat between our teeth. It's already considered to be digested. It's not considered to be pieces of meat. Now, halacha yud aleph. Whenever we give you like a general rule in Jewish law, whenever you have 2 reasons, very often the Gemara, halacha, you'll say, okay, so now that we have the 2 reasons, show me where these 2 reasons would play out, and we're going to see an actual difference in Elam HaMais, in actuality. So now we're going to do that. There's a difference. In actuality, the feet, according to the first reason, with the fattiness that's inside the mouth. You didn't actually consume the meat. So let's say you just chewed a thick piece of meat to soften it up, and you spit it out and gave it to a child. According to that reason, you could drink milk right away because you don't have any aftertaste of meat inside your system because it didn't go into your esophagus, didn't actually go into your digestive system. It was just on your teeth. It was like an external, very like a casual grazing of the meat. It wasn't actually internalized. Because there is no aftertaste of meat in the mouth. Put the second reason. Also, you're not allowed to drink milk, and I want to top of fish. I'll take the question at the end. Even after you chew the meat for a child, because now you have meat that has come in between your teeth, and we're concerned about that in up to 6 hours. A secondary reason, a secondary example, we're going to have a different in if you find piece of meat after in between your teeth after 6 hours, according to the second reason, that's not considered to be basar anymore because the kvarnis akal is considered to be already digested. You would be allowed to have milk without taking it out. According to the first reason, you're not allowed to drink milk without first taking out those strands of meat stuck in between the teeth, camping out over there overnight. Because according to the first reason, which is concerned about the taste of meat, we don't see a source to say that pieces of actual pieces of meat in one's mouth are considered to be digested after 6 hours. So what happens is we take the chumrah, we take the stringent positions of both opinions. That's where we get into halacha yudbeis. And I'll take your question if you can kind of hold out. Yudbeis, halacha nitzak v'shulchan aruch paskins, lahachmir kishnei ha'ta'amim. We are stringent like both opinions. Okay. We have to be concerned about the second reason. Even if you didn't actually eat the meat, you just chewed it for a child. One must wait 6 hours. If you didn't actually chew the meat, you put it on your tongue, right? I remember my mother, blessed memory, used to put the soup on her tongue, take a little spoon and put it on her tongue. You go just spit it out to determine whether or not there was enough salt. How she figured that out, I don't understand. Because I need to swallow it to whoever felt, and I always need more salt. But she was able to, I guess with her culinary skills and her maybe her mother instinct, she was able to go like this, figure it out. But in that case, if you put chicken soup on your tongue, didn't actually swallow it, then you have no issue of meat between the teeth, and also no issue of the aftertaste. And then one top could not be flaking. You just rinse your mouth and you're good to go. Then 6 hours would not be required to be waited to wait. Of course, one should rinse their mouth. To make him machmirim once we are machmir, we're stringent to be choishes for the first reason. If one finds meat between one's teeth after 6 hours, we say it has to be removed. And how does one clean one's mouth? We have many choices. You can have a piece of bread, eat a rice cake, a cracker, all 5 things. Have an apple, pepper, cucumbers, tomatoes, salad, whatever you like. Also to rinse one's mouth like this. If you don't like to do that, you can also brush your teeth and floss your teeth if you choose to do so. Then we'll be allowed to have dairy afterwards without waiting any further, because you already waited the requisite time. You just have to clean the mouth and rinse the mouth. So the net result is that we're machmir like both opinions. Any questions? Yes. There are 2 opinions, and everyone agrees that if you just taste something, let's say I put a piece of chicken soup on my tongue, I don't swallow it. I really just to see whether or not it's salty enough, has enough flavor of it, and spit it out, then you would not be flacious. You just have to rinse your mouth after. Because the 2 reasons we mentioned would not come into play. There's no piece of meat in between your teeth, and there's no aftertaste of meat in your mouth, because you didn't swallow anything. On the other hand, regarding the 2 reasons and the 2 opinions and the reasons that they give, we're machmir, we're stringent like both opinions. And therefore, after 6 hours, we have to make sure our teeth are clean, no meat residue camping out overnight. And so we can do that by either flossing our teeth, brushing our teeth, and then rinsing our mouth, or we can eat a piece of bread, eat an apple, some hard food that's not sticky, that's going to kind of clean through the whole palate inside and the teeth, and we're good to go. And rinse our mouth, of course, as well. Usually, by the way, within a 6-hour period after a meat meal, we're probably going to have some hard food, unless the person really doesn't have any snacks. But if someone had a snack attack and they had some food in between, that could also qualify as a cleanser. The cleanser does not have to happen after 6 hours. It has to happen by the 6 hours. So if you do the cleanser within the 6, right after the meat, you still have to wait the requisite time, but you're good to go. Did I confuse you? Okay, good, I'm glad to hear that. Let me hear more.
But, like,
If you spat it out, then you didn't really become flacious.
like, soup or chicken, whatever.
Well, if you chew the chicken, then you have the issue of in between the teeth. But if you just put it on your tongue, a liquid, and just to see whether or not it's salty enough and you spat it out, it didn't really go into your system. Okay. Any other questions? And or we can move on.
Which not brought, you know, like the first one was to chew it and fill out the car.
Second, well, according to the second opinion. No, we said two things. And you know, we said, according to a situation, if you chew meat for a child, according to the second reason, that's concerned about piece of meat in between the teeth, you got a problem. You have to wait 6 hours. According to the first reason, you wouldn't have to wait 6 hours because the aftertaste of meat not in your system, and you didn't swallow it yet. And or another example would be if you find piece of meat in your teeth after 6 hours. According to the first reason, you were not worried about it. According to the second reason, you're not worried about it because it's considered to be already digested. But according to the first reason, we don't see a proof of that. So what this is doing, Yudalf is setting up the stage to show that we're stringent like both opinions, that after 6 hours, one has to remove any pieces of meat from between their teeth, and we're machmir like both opinions, which means to say, if you just chew a piece of meat for a child, don't swallow it, we still would say you have to wait 6 hours. The only time you don't have to wait 6 hours would be if you put something on your tongue that did not require chewing, you just put on your tongue to test it, you spat it out, then you just rinse your mouth and you're good to go. You're fine. Halacha Yud Gimel is a very, very relevant halacha and very, very practical. Actually, before we even get to that, this is also relevant, but now we're getting into. Okay, we spoke about eating actual meat, actual dairy. What about if I make my favorite supper? I make chicken and rice.
So in that 6 hours, you must have a time tester.
Yes. Or right after the 6 hours. Before you have dairy, you can do it after 9 hours, but no dairy before you do the palate cleanser. And rinse your mouth. Now, the next, what happens if I'm making my favorite supper? I have to say my favorite supper, chicken and rice. Now the rice itself is part, but I'm putting it in a pan and it's cooking together with the chicken. So as a result of that, it's absorbing the juice of the chicken, the flavor. No, it tastes very good. So now the question is, what is the status of the rice? Do I say that the rice takes on the status of meat to the degree? Of course, I cannot eat the rice with dairy, but do I say it takes on the status of meat to such an extent that after eating such rice, I now have to wait 6 hours, just like I'd have to wait after eating the chicken or the meat? That's the focus of the next halakha. I'm not going to give you the answer. I'm going to keep you looking suspense. Yeah. Yeah, there's a little bit of a difference because the broth is parts of the chicken itself. The rice is absorbing the flavor of the chicken. It's not really the actual broth so much because it's more of a drier experience. Halacha Gimel. But in actuality, the result is going to be the same. Even if someone didn't have an actual meat. I look tafshel stomach, a par food, and the example I gave you was rice. Chain by basar called rice by itself is par, uncooked rice. Chin is bashel and basar, but I prepare it together with meat. I made a dish, rice and chicken and rice. I feed a mullet solos or basar. The example you just said about chicken soup. It's the actual gravy or the chicken or the broth of the chicken. Up, shalei shayach echad mishnei hatamim. When I have chicken soup, or let's say I have the rice that cooked together with the chicken. So the rice, according to the reason I'm worried about piece of meat in between the teeth, it's rice. There's no piece of meat in between the teeth. According to the reason I'm worried about the aftertaste of meat, in my system. It's not actual meat. So a little bit of a gray area. Right, our minig is that we say that you have to still wait 6 hours after eating a par foods cooked together or baked together with meat. And we also don't drink any milk. Oh, we turn the page now, page. We also would not eat a part food that has meat or dairy in it, that was cooked together with meat or dairy. We consider it to be the same status of what it's cooked with. Okay, so what this means is that we are stringent to say, according to the custom, that when you have a par food cooked together, for bringing together with the chicken or the meat in that pot, it's all absorbed, considered to be one. I'll tell you what, there's a very beautiful expression brought down in the Medrash. And it says as follows. The Rambam brings it down at the beginning of the Yad HaZokah. I brought down in the Rambam La'am. I remember the exact Lashon. And it says that if you go to a base merkata, you go to like a spice house, or you go to a house where they sell perfumes, if you just go inside, even if you don't actually adorn any of the perfumes, you come out smelling nice. The implication being is that when you're already in a certain kind of environment, you're affected by the environment. So spiritually, when we're in a place of spiritual refinement, of beautification, even if we didn't actually delve in deep, we're gonna be affected by it. We're saying the same thing over here, how much more so, and you have the par food cooking together, it's affected, and therefore it takes on the status of whatever's cooked together with. Now, halacha yudalid is already another layer, another level. It's further removed. Well, okay, fine. I understand. We're cooking the chicken or the rice or the pasta and chicken together. It's going to take on the same status as the chicken or the meat. Got it. Accepted. Sealed and delivered. What about if I took pasta and I cook it in a clean pot? There's no flesh inside now, no meat inside. It's a clean pot. I want this size pot and I cook it inside. Now, so what's the status of this pasta? Question number one. Question number two is, may I take this pasta, empty it from its contents of the meat pot, that is, meat pot, and then mix it with dairy? Question, I mean, is it truly par, semi-par, like exactly how do we scale it up? How do we actually classify it? Let's look inside. Din machal stomish in especial, the potato with soy is a par food that's cooked in a fleshige pot. Ulam in especial machal stomish with potato with soy. A par food is cooked in a fleshige pot. Yesh levorish they shares. You have two questions to ask for achaz. Him tzrichem lahant and shei shoy. Ben machal stomish there. The machal hot. You have to wait 6 hours between this par food before having dairy. Hashniya, the second question is, can I have dairy together and with this par food? So the first question is very easy to answer. Even if the pot was not cleaned like the balabusta in the house, the man cleaned the pot. Which means that if you look closely, you might find some residue there, but it's surface clean. Yes, there's different. The guy gets married, has to learn there's different levels of cleanliness. That there's the guy cleaning the pot and the woman cleaning the pot, and the husband has to strive to clean the pot like a woman would clean the pot. Okay, then even so, there's a little remnants there. You would be allowed to have dairy thereafter because that remnant would be considered nullified 1 in 60. And you wouldn't even have to rinse your mouth because the food would actually retain its par status. Now, halacha tezvav gets into a much more nuanced question. And it's something we can really discuss at length. A lot of questions come up with this kind of scenario. Fine, I got it. So the pasta is not considered to be bona fide flesh. I can have it, and it's considered to be par. But now comes the $1 million question. Can I take the pasta and empty it from the fleishige pot and mix it with cheese? I've left over pasta in a bag. Oh, I only eat half of it. I like pasta and cheese. I don't, but some people do. Good question, right? Let's look at that inside. By the way, before we even answer this question, before we get into it too deeply, I don't know if it does well, I want to share another point with you. Halacha draws a distinction between a situation before the fact, where I have a choice, and after the fact, when I did it in a permissible way, and now I have leftovers, or if I have no choice. For example, let's talk about some scenarios of it. You're hosting Shabbat brachas for your friend who just got married in your apartment, and your biggest pot happens to be a fleishige pot. It wasn't used in 24 hours, but you're having a milk Shabbat brachas. Yeah, and you use that pot to cook up a whole 15,000 pounds of spaghetti, you're good. Because that's considered to be a matzah dachos, it's considered to be a case of need. You have to make Shabbat brachas for your friend, it's a big mitzvah. And you don't have any pot that's anywhere near that size, right? To be able to cook 15,000 pounds of pasta, you need a big pot. So now, what happens if you don't have a situation like that? You're just cooking for your home, not like cooking for any special occasion. I mean, it's a special occasion for your family, but it's not like you have a lot of people. But you use the fleishige pot because you wanted to use that pasta and mix it with meatballs. You have meatballs and spaghetti for supper. But the spaghetti still remains hard, and you have a full bag left over of spaghetti. You put in the fridge. Question is, can I take that spaghetti and have it with dairy tomorrow? I'm ready since the pot many hours later, right? So 6 hours later. These are questions. This is what we're going to discuss now. Halacha Tetzvav. I'm going to give you all a warning, full warning. There are a lot of nuances in this halacha. So I know you're all paying attention, but I wanted to give you a warning. There are some nuances. When we touch on them, I'm going to pick up on them and mention them. There's about 4 or 5 nuances that we'll talk about, 4 or 5 scenarios on how we classify them, and then you'll have some clarity. Regarding the second question, on the onset, one should not choose to cook a part food in a fleishige pot with the intention of eating it with dairy. Don't plan on it. But even after the fact, meaning it wasn't planned, it was already done. You already cooked a part of food in the fleishige pot. The Ashkenaz of not eat it together with dairy. Even if the pot was clean, if the pot was a ben yoimeh, was used with meat within the last 24 hours in a hot process. Okay, so a clean meat pot that was used with meat hot within the last 24 hours, in Chatzchila, we would not allow cooking a pasta with the intention of eating that pasta with dairy. From the Ashkenazic tradition. But if the pot was not used within the last 24 hours, it was sitting quiet in the corner in the cupboard, not making any noise for 36 hours. Within the last 24 hours, no meat was cooked inside there. If you already cooked pasta in that pot after the fact, you would be allowed to eat that pasta after emptying it from the meat pot, putting it in the bag. You would be allowed to have that pasta with dairy because the pot was not a ben yoimeh. Therefore, the pot it exuded a spoiled taste of meat into the water, into the pasta. The pasta is a secondary taste. Etc. Mixing with the cheese would be a third taste, and it's considered to be a non-fresh taste. It's permissible. The great grandchild that's already spoiled. The reason is because the taste that's absorbed in the walls, it's more than 24 hours. It's already spoiled. It's not palatable. Then it's calculated. It's already broken apart. It lacks the potency to make another food also to give it that status of meat. Holds and furnished partial makabik day. So let's talk about after the fact. You already cooked the pasta in a place of kapah. But from the onset, also the partial partial big day one would not be permitted to cook a par food in a place of kapah. Even though it was not used for meat within the last 24 hours. In if someone had the intention to eat it together with dairy. However, like the example I gave you with regard, here the nuances, the example I gave you regarding the Shabbat brachas, you have no other pots that can cook 15,000 pounds of pasta. Then you would be allowed to use a plastic pot that was not used within the last 24 hours for the sake of cooking the pasta, for the sake of removing it from that pot to be able to serve in a dairy meal. After the fact, the food is already mixed with dairy. It's talking about even if the pot was a ben yoimei, after the fact, if it was mixed, you're not allowed to do that. But if you did it, the food is permitted to be eaten. Even if the place you get a pot was a ben yoimei. Just to clarify, the Sfardim are leaning to say you're allowed to take a pot that was a ben yoimei, a place pot used for meat in the last 24 hours that's been cleaned, cook pasta in it, and then remove the pasta and eat it together with cheese. We hold you're not allowed to do the chatchila. But if someone mistakenly mixed it with the cheese already, then you don't have to throw away the food after the fact. Once it's already done, the food may be eaten, but the chatchila you're not allowed to. So they confuse you all effectively. Good. Now, you get it? All kidding aside. It's nuanced. A lot of these details, but it's pretty logical. Okay. My breath. Yes.
If somebody is waiting, would they have, so let's say, this situation, they have food policy that's cooked in a dairy pot.
Oh, so then if you're flashing, you can for sure eat the par food cooked in a milk of your pot after meat within the 6 hours. That's no problem whatsoever. It's always allowed. The only question here is, can I mix it together with the opposite kind? And that's the whole discussion. Okay, any other questions?
Clarify what a ben yoimei is again.
A ben yoimei refers to a pot that was used to cook meat or dairy, depending on whichever example we're using, within the last 24 hours. The son of the day, or bas yoimei, was used within the last 24 hours. Before we get to the next halacha about a Michael Koref, a short food, I'll tell you a Kiddush Michael story. There was a Polish Rebbe, Tzaddik, name was a Trotsky, very, very sharp, brilliant man. Someone asked him a question. Can I chazer over your Torah? Can I repeat over your Torah thoughts, the Torah, the wisdom that you're sharing, the Torah that you're sharing in someone else's name? He said, you can chazer over my Torah with my name, without my name, it doesn't matter. As long as you don't chazer over someone else's Torah in my name. I heard another story. The Rebbe really enjoyed humor. The Rebbe was very humorous. The Rebbe really had a great sense of humor. I think I told this to you already. My father merited a very close relationship with the Rebbe, and on 2 occasions that I'm aware of, the Rebbe joked around with my father, made some jokes to him. One of them was regarding university. My father was a university student, he was a scientist. But the Rebbe told my father that when he was in university, when the Rebbe was in university in Sorbonne, there was a Professor Nertz printed story. I think he was a Jewish professor of economics, and he was a Nobel Prize laureate, a brilliant man. And he was teaching an introductory course in economics. The Rebbe said, I couldn't understand why is such a brilliant professor teaching an introductory course in economics, not the highest level course. And the Rebbe said to my father with a smile, then I found out that they pay the professors based on the number of students in the class. Another story was that my father was studying crystal growth the time he became engaged to my mother. It's a passing that. So outside the Rebbe's room, they asked the Rebbe for a bracha for the shidduch. And the Rebbe came out, gave a bracha. Then the Rebbe said to my father with a smile, "Now's no time to think about crystal growth." The Rebbe was like totally on people's wavelength. The third occasion, I heard another story this past Shabbos. Mrs. Resnick, Molly Resnick, she spoke in my house. We had a group of people there. She told over a very fascinating exchange. She had yichidus with the Rebbe. So one time she was by dollars and she gave the Rebbe a letter to read. And then she turned back to the Rebbe and said to the Rebbe, it's urgent. I can get an answer as soon as possible. Well, it's very time sensitive. So the Rebbe said to her, "Can I read it first?" Like the Rebbe was just like totally with every moment, did not miss a beat. And another example, this wasn't so much of a humorous exchange, but a very, very down to earth. My father told me that when he was a Bachman in 77, he'll do this. There was some rich man, he donated suits to the Bachman. I think he was in the clothing business. He allowed the Bachman to go down to his warehouse with the suits, and they would all, pick up suits for free. Pesach, every Pesach. My father was a scientist, a bit of an absent-minded professor. He didn't look like Shlom, but he wasn't so into his clothing. My father, the scientist, his mind was wrapped in ideas, So he found himself a suit, but it was like two sizes to show the jacket was too big on him. It was like droopy on the side. So the Rebbe spotted him, and he took the suit for Pesach. The Rebbe spotted him upstairs in the hallway and said to him, "Hasidism is not synonymous with asceticism." I was into that suit. Rabbi Dr. Pape reminds me that I think you remember this exchange. My father, the Rebbe related to my father like a father to a son. Very, very close encounters. My father was standing with a few bachrim on the corner of Eastern Parkway and Brooklyn Avenue. And the Rebbe was walking home. In the early years, the Rebbe walked home himself. In 770, the Rebbe's house on President Street, right? The Rebbe walked down Eastern Parkway, crossed the streets of Brooklyn Avenue, so as not to walk by the church. Okay, so my father was standing on that corner, and there was some bachrim, and the Rebbe stopped my father and said, "How's it going? How are things going?" Another time there was I told you the story with the Begisha. My father started the Begishas at the Rebbe's behest, 1962. But I think in the early 70s, the Rebbe asked my father, I told you the story, right? How's the Begisha going? Yes, you heard that one. Yeah.
You can say it again.
The Rebbe wanted very, very detailed reports about the Begisha. So I'll tell you another component of this. My father wrote very long reports to the Rebbe, were like 9 or 10 pages long, very long, every detail possible. And the Rebbe wanted every detail possible. And then one time my father wrote to the Rabbi Lieberman from Antwerp, who spoke about Shara Yichud Muna. He also understood science. He connected that with some scientific ideas, and the Rebbe was very excited about that, the idea of connecting Hasidus and showing it how it applies to every part of the world, because it was going to attract academics, the Yiddishkeit. And the Rebbe told the people organizing the Begisha that the speakers don't have to be Lubavitch. They have to be Orthodox Jews. That's all that counts. And then when I was sitting shiva with my father, so somebody came over, one of the Rebbe's secretaries, one of the children, the secretaries, handed me a gift. Not a gift in the form of a gift, and I was sitting shiva, supposed to receive gift, but he gave me an answer of the Rebbe that the Rebbe gave to my father after writing a book for the Rebbe. I never knew about this answer. My father was a very humble person, and my mother-in-law, Shalom, used to criticize him. Used to say to him in a loving way, "You're too humble for yourself." Yeah, he was a scientist. He had 57 patents in his name. He was very close to the Rebbe. He really did a lot for the Rebbe, so he was very humble. He said, "What am I? I'm just a poor country boy." And so he was very nonchalant, and he had no airs about him. So when he wrote the book to the Rebbe, about the Begishas, he didn't mention anything about himself. He just spoke about the speakers and what the reaction of the crowd was. So the Rebbe wrote back about the duch. This is what I received from the Simpson. I was thinking, he says, the Rebbe writes, the duch chaser, the duch is missing. You don't mention anything about the organizer himself. The Rebbe underlined twice. This is misplaced humility. The Rebbe criticized me being too humble. My mother called it. She knew it. She got it right. But that's the way he did things. And then the Rebbe also wanted my father to speak, because he wanted to showcase to be a professional, albeit a chassid. But my father used to say there's better speakers than Rabbi than me, so he hardly ever spoke. And he was the chairman. He used to say, "I'm the chairman." I put up the chairs. Yeah, very human. My father loved the Hanoka. Anyway, that's one story. Another story is that the father, in the middle of a Chassidish Fabrengen, he would say that saying l'chaim is a lube job, just like you bring in the car, change the lubrication, to change the fluids. The saying l'chaim is a lube job. It goes through the system and cleans out the fluids inside of us to make us whole. And there was a time when Boston is known as the Athens of America, because you have all the universities there, you have all the secular wisdom. And the Rebbe told my parents to move to Boston because my father had a job change. We were living in Manchester. We didn't want to leave it because with schooling there, good yeshiva. And the Rebbe told my father to move to Boston, and our last name was Hanukkah. And my father would say in the middle of a Chassidish Fabrengen, the Rebbe sent Hanukkah to Yavin, to peace, to light up the city. Okay, I think we're going to both show up in a moment. Okay, we'll stop by Michael Farid. Hashem. Remind me next week to get some more stories. Open up the file that we have. Have a wonderful week. Well.